In this video, I'm going to be testing the Varla Eagle One Pro to figure out whether or not it's worth your time and money. Touted as an all-terrain electric scooter, I put it through its paces across varying environments and measured its performance against its most fierce rivals. Now, if you're expecting an update on the original Varla Eagle One, think again. This is an entirely new direction, cut from an entirely different cloth. Bigger and tougher than anything the brand has released before, the Pro ticks pretty much every box required for an all-terrain Juggernaut, but it does have a few quirks that you should be aware of. To kick off the review, I'll go over the 6 things that I love before covering the 3 areas that could be improved, and then we'll finish with my overall judgment. Now, before we jump in, I quickly want to ask that if you find value in this video, please let me know by liking and subscribing, and I'll do my best to bring you more reviews just like this one. Armed with dual 60-volt 1000-watt motors and 30-amp controllers, the Varla Eagle One Pro is capable of reaching a gun-inducing 45 miles per hour. Compared to 7 other models within a range of $500, it's the category's top performer. But despite its impressive spec sheet, the Pro feels slower to reach its top speed than the likes of the Wolf Warrior X GT and Mantis V2 models. Now, there's 2 factors that explain this. Firstly, its 2600 watt peak power output is lower than the 4 scooters trailing it in the table, and secondly, it's heavier. Now, I'll explore this more when we look at its acceleration rate later in the review. Equipped with a large 60-volt 27-amp-hour battery, the Eagle One Pro claims to keep the wheels rolling for 45 miles, and under my test I got a very respectable 36 miles out of it. Made of energy-efficient 21700 battery cells, its 1620 watt-hours of stored energy means it's 71% larger than the unit found on the Pro's predecessor, the Eagle One. This performance is further enhanced by a presence of a smart battery management system that regulates the flow of energy in and out of the battery. Compared against 7 models that sit within a $500 price range, it finishes as runner-up to the Wolf Warrior X GT, and while its battery is almost identical in size to that of the Wolf, its rival's superior sine wave controllers allow it to achieve a longer real-world range of 43 miles. Now, it must be noted that the Wolf doesn't stand up to the Varla's all-terrain riding credentials. Don't be fooled by the playful embrace of colour. This is one tough cookie. It's irrefutably tank-like with the aluminium casting near on indestructible come rain or shine. I'm also a big fan of the tidy, unobtrusive cable management and securely fastened front and rear fenders. There's also no risk of stem wobble thanks to the secure folding mechanism and the safety pin that holds the stem in place. As a result, the scooter feels rock solid no matter how aggressively you ride. Elsewhere, the super wide and grippy deck is perfectly formed for keeping your feet firmly glued in place. Another feature that I particularly like is the grip slathered kick plate. This is the first time that I've tested a scooter with this integration, and while it may sound trivial, it actually makes a big difference to the amount of control you have when scaling treacherous off-road routes. And as for the size of the deck, I've seen some reviewers say that it's a little short, but from my experience riding this beast, I encountered no such issues. It measures 22.8 inches in length, and the kick plate adds an extra 3 inches of space onto the end. Dovetailing with the ultra-durable 11 by 4 inch tyres is the hydraulic suspension system. The dual shocks are well calibrated to ensure a reasonably cushioned ride, while 6.7 inches of ground clearance means it rolls over challenging obstacles without incurring damage to the underside of the deck. Sure, it's not as smooth as premium all-terrain scooters like the Mantis King GT, but it certainly beats other revered models like the Wolf Warrior X GT. Compared to the original Varla Eagle One, the suspension isn't as plush, but the tightly packed springs make it ideal for heavier riders where the added preload ensures that the springs don't bottom out. While the Eagle One Pro can be purchased with either hydraulic or mechanical brakes, I recommend the former if stopping power is a valued commodity to you. Armed with the hydraulics, you'll come to a complete halt from 15 miles per hour in 3 meters, which is in line with other good performers. Varla says that the 10-watt headlight can light up to 500 meters of the road in front of you. Now, I appreciate the enthusiasm of its marketing team, but this is a stretch, especially when you consider that the strongest sports stadium floodlights reach just 300 meters. It's a great light nevertheless, and it keeps you safe during night rides. The only thing to be aware of though is that because it's attached to the main frame as opposed to the stem or the handlebars, it doesn't always point where you want it to. At the opposite end of the scooter, the taillight is large, bright and flashes when you pull on the brakes. Okay, so we just ran through the things that I love, but now let's take a look at the 3 things that could be improved. The Eagle One Pro hits 50 miles per hour in 2.5 seconds and 25 miles per hour in 5 seconds. Now, in isolation, these seem pretty impressive, but chart topping certainly not. The Mantis King GT rules the roost among similarly priced models, with its more powerful motors leaving the Pro in a cloud of dust. The Mantis V2 on the other hand has the same size motors and smaller 25 amp controllers. Crucially, however, it weighs less, so can accelerate quicker. Likewise, the SPLACH Titan beats the Pro to 25 miles per hour, and it has 52 volt 1000 watt motors, shares the same peak power output of 2600 watts, and is considerably lighter. It's also $810 cheaper. So what can you take away from all these comparisons? Well, there's no getting around the fact that while the Varla certainly has a fast top speed, its acceleration makes its performance feel somewhat muted. For riders that are seeking a shot of adrenaline, spending an extra few dollars may be a wise move. When you ride the scooter for the first time, it feels very unnatural. This is the result of 2 design quirks. The first is the stiff steering damping, and when I say stiff, I mean it. This makes it difficult to turn the handlebars, forcing you to adopt a style of riding that requires you to lean into the corners as though you're riding a motorcycle. The second issue, which exacerbates the first, is to do with geometry. You see, the steering column doesn't line up with the center of the front wheel, and as a result, it creates what is known as a negative trail, and this leads to jittery steering. Combined with the tyres that lose traction around the corners, it's fair to say that the Eagle One Pro isn't the best scooter for carving at speed. On the other hand, the large tyres and steering damper certainly provide stability when burning rubber on the straights. Where they shine, however, is when you're riding off-road and need additional control to remain upright. Along the handlebars, everything is clean, tidy and ergonomically designed. The thumb throttle is perfectly positioned to allow for excellent modulation over your speed, while the brake levers and buttons are within easy reach. It must be noted, however, that the button console is cheaply made, and this was evidenced in my test. While riding off-road, I noticed that the speed setting changed without any input. This is because each button has a little spring underneath it, and so as the scooter was rolling over bumps, it shook the frame, causing the springs to rattle, compress and change the setting. As for the grips, they mold to your hand, but I did notice that the right hand grip was a little loose and it could be twisted. Now, finishing the cockpit is a large centrally located display, and it features all the key stats that you need at a glance, but under direct sunlight it gets washed out. So, is the Varla Eagle One Pro worth your time and money? Well, it depends on if you can let its flaws slide. If you plan to ride solely off-road, it's a good choice and it certainly performs well against similarly priced scooters, but there's no denying that it's rivaled by both the much cheaper SPLACH Titan and the king of all-terrain rides, the Mantis King GT. Now, if you want to get your hands on the Varla, you can scan this QR code or click the links in the description. Or if you want to see my full performance test, you can read the full review on electricscooterinsider.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.